What is the truth behind muscle soreness? What are the best ways to prevent it? And if you do get sore, what are the best ways to reduce it and get rid of it as quickly as possible? That's what we're going to cover in this video. But before we go there, if you haven't already, click the subscribe button below, because on this channel, you're going to learn how to get that strong, healthy, high-performing, sexy physique as a successful entrepreneur without cardio, without starvation, and without cutting out carbs. So click that button right now. All right, guys, welcome everyone. This is Coach Amir from 7figurebody.com. And in today's video, we're going to talk about soreness. You probably heard about DOMS, the infamous delayed onset muscle soreness. So what is it? So first, let's talk about two of the biggest myths that are still going around like 100 years later and about what causes soreness. So the first thing that you've probably heard before, which is not true, is that the soreness is actually caused by lactic acid accumulating after the workout. So, like you've had a hard workout and now you can't walk, you can't go up or down the stairs. The hardest thing is like sitting on a, chair or getting out of the chair, or when you go into the toilet, like when you're trying to sit on the toilet, it's like really, really, really painful. Well, the first thing that you've probably heard is the lactic acid that is a byproduct of, you actually doing muscular work. This is what actually causes it. And then they said, well, because of that, we need to try to get that lactic acid out of it. Okay, this is absolutely not true. It is a myth that lactic acid accumulation inside of the muscle causes soreness. It does not. The simplest reason that this is not true is because we know that lactic acid is kind of washed out of the muscle, flushed out, in 30 to 60 minutes after the workout. On the other hand, we know that the soreness is usually like the next day, maybe even 2 days later, sometimes can be 12 hours, but it most certainly isn't that long that lactic acid actually stays in the muscles. Lactic acid is flushed out really quickly because your blood, flow goes through, the body and just flushes everything out. But when it comes to lactic acid, very quickly, again, 30 to 60 minutes. So, and we get sore 2 days later. Obviously, the things are not related. Okay, so that's the first myth. The second myth that you probably heard that most people still believe today is that when you are actually sore, it's because you have these micro ruptures in your muscles, micro damage to the actual muscle, and that, pain from those actual physical damage, that's what's actually causing it. And this is also not true. Some newer research lately has shown that it's actually not the actual muscle, but it's the connective tissue surrounding the muscle. That's what's actually, getting you to feel the kind of, the soreness effects. So now, someone could say, well, that's semantics, it's not a big deal. Well, maybe, but here's why it's important. Because a lot of people still believe, especially bros, that, you gotta be really, really sore to build muscle, right? If you aren't getting sore, that means you aren't training hard enough. And therefore, you're not gonna have any gains. This is absolutely wrong. So this is, the third myth that I would say is that people believe that soreness leads to muscle growth. Now we know that it's either neutral effect, meaning soreness is really not related. It doesn't, make it worse or better for muscle growth, but that's at best. At worst, it's probably actually bad for muscle gain. So you do not want to be sore. So, how they say, well, you got to chase DOMS, bro. You got to chase the soreness and be crazy sore. No, it's actually the opposite of that. Why? Because when you get that sore that you can't even walk or do anything for a week, you might have been training for that week, maybe 2 to 3 times during the week, and now you can't because you're sore, right? So that's the reason why it's really not a good idea to chase DOMS in order to build muscle. If anything, that's actually prevent you or going to build less muscle than you would if you didn't get sore, okay? So number one thing that I can say, so here are the 3 things if you do get sore. Okay, if you do still get sore, here are the 3 things to do. Number 1 is, I would actually say, the best thing to do about soreness to begin with is to prevent it, meaning to not get sore at all. Now, there is one actual situation when soreness is probably not avoidable, But even then, we can actually reduce the severity of it by simply not doing too much. And that one case is somebody being a complete beginner, meaning they've never worked out, now they're going to the gym, or pretty much doing any other, doesn't have to be lifting weights. It can be running, it can be cycling, whatever you do that's a new stimulus. remember, the number one thing that causes soreness is new stimulus, new type, intensity, or duration of exercise. So for example, you could be really fit, going to the gym, doing, chest, let's say, for example, chest, like tricep, quads, whatever muscle groups you pick, choose an exercise that you haven't done in a long time, you will get really sore. Let's say you train, with squats and leg extensions and leg presses, you really train your quads well. Well, one day you decide to do a Bulgarian split squat, and maybe that's a exercise that you haven't done in a couple of months or years or never. Guess what? You're going to get crazy sore because it's a new stimulus to the muscle. So, knowing that, the best way to prevent soreness, or at least to have it to the least possible level, is don't do too much when you're doing new things. So for example, somebody who's a beginner, or somebody who, was in shape 10 years ago, but didn't work out for the last 10 or 5 or 3 or whatever years, and they're going back into it, your body still looks at it as a new thing, even if you were fit, 10 years ago. And therefore, do not do too much too fast. Do very little, 1 to 2, sets per muscle group, do a full body, and that's fine. Are you gonna get sore? Probably. But is the soreness gonna be as bad as if you're like, okay, I gotta go and do, 15 sets or 30 sets or whatever for chest the first time I go? Okay, then you won't be able to move your arms, right? If you do legs that way, you won't be able to walk next, couple of days. So do not do too much of a new type, either intensity or volume of the exercise, okay? That's the number one thing you can do to prevent or at least reduce the amount of soreness you're gonna have after, okay? Number 2, knowing that if you are going to get sore, one thing that I would suggest, and this is what we use a lot, I used this when I was a pro triathlete a lot, which is called active recovery. So basically the worst thing you can do if you get sore is just sit on your butt and do nothing. You're like, okay, my legs hurt, I'm just gonna sit and not move for 3 days. Okay, I do not suggest doing this. Actually, movement is what will help you recover faster and therefore also reduce your soreness as well. So walk around. Best things, if your legs are sore, go for walks. Obviously, don't go, uphill or, something that's like really steep and hard. We want to be like normal walking from 1 to 10, where, intensity, when 1 is like, now I'm like sitting, 10 is I'm sprinting all out. I want it to be like 2 to 3, okay? So walking. Basically, simplest form, walking, maybe even some light cycling, maybe some very light elliptical machine, if that's what you like to do, indoor stuff, totally fine. But some light, very low intensity activity for 30 to 45 minutes, a day or two after you got sore, is the best thing that I would suggest. And then the third thing, if you actually did do too much, a lot of times people do races, and by the way, guys, just so you know, the number one thing that's actually the biggest cause or source of soreness is eccentric loading. So when the muscle is being elongated or stretched out, loading it under that condition is what actually causes the most soreness. So eccentric load. So for example, if you're doing eccentric, squats very slowly or deadlifts very slowly, that's when you get sore. In the kind of cardio performance world, it is the downhill running that is the worst possible thing. It's going to get you sore like nothing else. Why? Because your muscle, as it's being, elongated, it's being, doing that under weight, under force. So therefore, I remember maybe 10 years ago, I did one of these adventure races. I don't know if it was a Tough Mudder. Yeah, it was a Tough Mudder race. And it basically was in Pennsylvania, some ski resort. So you basically run up to, like a mile and a half steep hill, and then you have to run down. Okay, so you're running down a mile of, or whatever, I don't know, half a mile, whatever it was, but it was a long hill, ski resort. So I was so sore, I literally couldn't walk for like 3 days. Like I couldn't do anything. So I was still trying to do my best to just walk around under excruciating pain. So just so you know, that is the number one thing that's going to cause soreness. So if you can avoid it, by all means, do it, okay? But what I'm saying is, if you overdid it a little bit, it just happened, or you had some race and you couldn't control it, yes, you can use some of the, Advils and ibuprofens, but I would suggest using this only as the last resort. So this would be the third thing. You can have some, anti-inflammatory over-the-counter medications, but I would say one thing, please remember, a lot of people love, as soon as they get a little bit sore, okay, bunch of Advils, all of this. Actually, please remember, things that actually cause muscle growth after your workouts in the gym, when you're, like pushing and doing resistance training, things that actually cause muscle growth. A part of that machinery is the inflammation that happens after the workouts. And if you're reducing that inflammation intentionally by taking anti-inflammatories like Advils, ibuprofens, and such, you're actually reducing the anabolic signaling that builds the muscle. That's why I'm not a fan. You guys know I'm a pharmacist, but I highly suggest never taking any pills, literally any pills, unless you absolutely positively have to. And this does not include, minerals and vitamins. These you should take. But I'm talking like actual, medications, like even the over-the-counter stuff, like, just the basic Advils and ibuprofens and such. I would not take them unless you absolutely have to. Okay. And this includes the case when you're getting sore. So those were, guys, the three things. First one, prevent it if you can by not doing too much, if you're doing new type, intensity, or length of exercise, make sure to do very little of it. And then basically, the best way to actually prevent soreness is not doing too much and working out more frequently, because as your body recovers and gets used to it, there's a concept called repeated bout effect, which simply means every time you work out, the body's getting more used to that stimulus and less sore. And as you guys know, if you look at what happens with soreness, it's usually like first 2 to 3, 4, whatever workouts you get sore. Later on, you don't really get that sore. You can still get sore, but much less so than the first couple of times. So that's why, training more frequently. So the worst thing you can do is like, I'm going to go and obliterate a muscle group, and then I'm not going to train for 2 weeks, and I'm going to do it again. If you do that, you're always going to be sore because the body didn't have time to adapt to that. So every time you do it, it's like shock, right? So the body gets really sore. On the other hand, if you train a couple of times a week, 2, 3 times a week, that's why I highly suggest minimum twice a week, full body, and just do that forever, rather than, I'm going to do 7 workouts a week, and you do that for 2 weeks, and then you break and you can't do anymore. Then you stop for a month or 2 and repeat that. Don't do that. Just remember, slow and steady wins the race. So anyways, guys, hope you liked this video. Hope you found it useful. If you did, please click the like and share button. Share this with an entrepreneur just like you so they can know exactly what to do about soreness. Also, if you like this video, you're going to love the free video that shows you A to Z how I transformed 1,200 clients so far to go from overweight, lethargic, and low energy to a high-performing, sexy looking, healthy entrepreneurs. Also, I'm going to give you, so if you click on the link at the bottom of this video, in the description of this video, you're going to get the access to that video 100% free that shows you A to Z how to get the ripped body. Also, I'm going to send you a free digital copy of my actual book that sells for $25 on Amazon. So, guys, hope you liked this video. Hope you got some value out of it. And I wish you an awesome day. See you next time. Cheers.